28th. 6.1 public member appointments.
All right, thank you. Okay. If there's nobody wishing to sever anything from that, then what I will do is close the motion. Please cast your vote on the consent agenda items. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And at this point in time, I will ask if there's any delegations. Nobody is pre-registered. There doesn't appear to be any members of the public in the audience, so I think we can move on from that one. And we will move on to unfinished business, 5.1, 2024 operating and capital budget adoption.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Jeremy Eamon, Chief Financial Officer for the City, and I'm here to present Administration's report requesting Council's formal approval of the 2024 municipal budget. Approval of the 2024 municipal budget by Council represents the final step in the City's annual budget process and fulfills the requirements under the Municipal Government Act. The MGA requires Council to approve an operating and a capital budget for each calendar year, and municipalities to prepare written 3- and 5-year plans respecting their anticipated financial operations and capital property additions respectively, which Council must review and update on an annual basis. The Fort Saskatchewan Public Library operates under the Libraries Act, which requires the Library Board to prepare an annual budget and provide an estimate of required funds for Council's consideration. The 2024 municipal budget identifies and allocates resources needed to provide for the municipal programs and services that support Council's goals and strategic initiatives within the strategic plan. The 2024 municipal budget was developed in accordance with the Operating and Capital Budgets Policy, FIN 24-C, and once approved, will provide an operating and a capital budget for 2024, a 3-year operating financial plan forecast for years 2025 through 2027, a 10-year capital plan for years 2024 through 2033, and a 2024 appropriation to the Fort Saskatchewan Public Library. Highlights of the 2024 operating budget include $94.6 million in total operating revenues, expenses, and transfers. This includes $23.4 million for utility operations and a $1.3 million appropriation to the Fort Saskatchewan Public Library. Appendix 1 to the Council report outlines the 2024 operating budget and provides a detailed breakdown of the operating revenues, expenses, transfers, and other items. Appendix 2 provides details of adjustments which are reflected in the 2024 operating budget and are based on Council motions passed during the budget deliberations, along with some adjustments made by administration. These adjustments include ongoing, one-time, and capital-related adjustments, which result in approximately $47,000 in net property tax revenue reductions and approximately $76,000 in net utility rate revenue reductions from the operating budget as originally proposed. Highlights of the 2024 capital budget include $28.7 million in total capital revenues and expenditures. Appendix 3 of the Council report shows a listing of all capital projects included in the 2024 capital budget. Total capital expenditures by asset category include $20.4 million in engineering structures, $6.2 million for vehicles, machinery, and equipment, and $2 million for buildings. Appendix 4 outlines the 10-year capital plan for years 2024 through 2033 that was reviewed by Council during the 2024 budget meetings. And as per budget policy, Council is scheduled to perform another review of the 10-year capital plan next June. Next, I'll review the financial impacts arising from the 2024 municipal budget. The 2024 user fees, rates, and charges bylaw, which will be presented to Council later this meeting, includes updated utility rates for 2024. Residential utility customers can expect an increase of $5.86 or 4.89% to their monthly utility bills compared to 2023. This is based on an average 14 cubic meter monthly water consumption and includes water, sewer, and solid waste services. Regarding municipal property taxes, the 2024 operating budget includes $56.5 million in total property tax revenue collected. This represents a 4.2% property tax revenue increase from 2023 and is the estimated impact to residential and non-residential property owners for their 2024 municipal property taxes compared to 2023. The tax increase includes $0.8 million in tax revenue from the estimated growth in property assessments and a $2.3 million increase due to projected spending in 2024. And please note that property owners may see their 2024 municipal property taxes change by more or less than 4.2%, depending on how their property's assessment changes in comparison to the average annual assessment change for the assessment class. In addition to municipal property taxes, the city also collects property taxes in the form of provincial education taxes and the Heartland Housing Foundation's Seniors Housing Requisition. In early spring 2024, the property assessments will be finalized by the city's property assessors. At this time, administration will determine the 2024 property tax rates for Council's review and approval within the 2024 property tax bylaw, as well as calculate if there is any additional property tax revenue growth beyond the estimates used at budget and recommend adjustments to the spring budget as needed. Administration recommends, first, that Council adopt the 3-year operating financial plan forecast and approve the 2024 operating budget dated December 12th, establishing total operating revenues and expenditures at $94.6 million, inclusive of the $23.4 million utilities budget. Secondly, that Council adopt the 10-year capital plan and approve the 2024 capital budget dated December 12th, establishing total capital revenues and expenditures at $28.7 million. And lastly, that Council approve the 2024 Fort Saskatchewan Public Library appropriation at $1.3 million. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I'll open it up for any questions. If there's no questions, I would entertain motion. Oh, Councillor Abatoye, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Jeremy, for your presentation. Just one quick question. So the 4.2% property tax increase, that's just for the city. It doesn't include a Heartland Housing Foundation requisition and school board requisition.
Through your worship to Councillor Abatoye, that is correct, yes.
Okay. So do we have an idea what that's going to look like?
Through your worship to Councillor Abatoye, the the education property tax requisition most likely won't be known until the province tables its budget next March. And as far as the Heartland Housing Foundation, we do know that amount, and I believe off the top of my head, it was just a slight increase over last year.
That's correct. Thank you very much, Jeremy.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Mayor Katcher, I'm prepared to make the motions if you approve.
Yes, go ahead.
You bet. I move the council adopt the 2025 through 2027 operating financial plan forecast and approve the 2024 operating budget dated December 12, 23, establishing total operating revenues and expenditures at $94,610,459, which includes the sum of $23,367,856 for the utilities budget.
Thank you. I'll accept that motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I have nothing to add. I support the budget. I liked how it was put together this year. I thought the budget was well done by administration. I actually think this year, probably from all of council, generated a lot less action and a lot less debate than prior years. I think that's a good thing. Nonetheless, I do think that 4.3% in the environment we're in is solid, and I would support it.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up for discussion and debate. Okay, not seeing anything on close for the first one?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. Did you want to continue?
Certainly. I move that council adopt the 2024 through to 2033 10-year capital plan and approve the 2024 capital budget dated December 12, 23, establishing total capital revenues and expenditures at $28,692,400.
Okay, thank you. I'll accept that motion. Anything further to speak to it?
Nothing, Mayor Catcher, just echo my comments from motion 1.
Okay, thank you. The motion is open for discussion and debate. Not seeing any. I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. Would you like to continue?
Certainly. I move the council approve the 2024 Fort Saskatchewan Public Library appropriation at $1,349,925.
Thank you. Would you like to speak in favor of it?
Briefly, yes. I thought the library board did a great job of presenting to council. I took no exception with their budget, and I truly applaud the work they're doing over there and urge them to keep it up.
Okay, thank you. It's open for discussion and debate. Not seeing any. I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Eamon. So good luck on implementation for January.
Great. Thank you.
All right, the next item that we have is Industrial Competitiveness Strategy and Toolset Implementation Plan. Aaron Brush Duncan presenting.
Oh, no. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Erin Brush Duncan, Director of Economic Development. I'm here today to present our proposed implementation plan for the Industrial Competitiveness Strategy that was initially presented to Council at the October 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting. As we were just before Council 2 months ago, I'm going to streamline this timeline just a little bit. On October 18th, 2022, Council heard information from an industrial property owner regarding the city's competitiveness within the region. On November 8th, 2022, Council passed a motion that directed administration to compile a study that identifies challenges to attracting investment within certain sectors to our industrial lands, benchmarks competitive gaps, and recommends financial and non-financial tools. And then on October 17th of 2023, the Industrial Competitiveness Strategy and Toolset report was presented for information, and administration committed to developing an implementation plan based on the recommendations within the report, as well as Council's feedback, and then bringing that implementation plan back before the end of 2023. Just as a reminder, our consultant, EBP, worked with local interested parties and administration to create recommendations for both financial and non-financial interventions, which could bolster Fort Saskatchewan's international and regional competitiveness. Each individual intervention will enhance Fort Saskatchewan's competitiveness, but as a collective, the recommendations represent a comprehensive strategy for attracting and developing the target sectors. Based on feedback received during the October 17th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting and engagement with interested parties, the recommendations within that strategy and tool set have been updated. These updates can be found on pages 36 to 37 and are shown as italicized blue text within your Appendix A. There are just a few updates to the strategy and tool set I'd like to bring to your attention. These are specifically in regards to the proposed incentives. For the hydrogen incentive, there were only slight modifications, reducing the employment threshold from 30 employees to 15 to better align with the Heartland Incentive Program. For the agricultural processing incentive, the updated strategy recommended a change to major and minor incentives dependent on that investment amount. The major ag processing incentive aligns very closely with the Heartland Incentive Program, and the minor program requires a lower investment, but also provides a lower tax incentive. Taking into account the feedback from the property owner and council, the updated strategy and toolset also recommends considering the establishment of a new manufacturing and services tax incentive that could work to take advantage of spin-off investments from large-scale industrial projects. I will be going more into detail on these proposed incentives later in the presentation. To date, we have had collaborative discussions with the industrial property owner, internal process discussions with planning and development, as well as initial meetings with our regional economic development partners. Furthermore, the implementation plan has been prepared based on the updated strategy and is now being presented. To execute the proposed industrial competitiveness strategy and toolset, administration is proposing a 2-year implementation plan. The recommendations within the strategy can be divided into 3 categories: site and organizational readiness, marketing, promotions, and advocacy, and incentives. Regarding the site and organizational readiness, we plan to engage with our regional partners and target sector businesses, support the new land use bylaw process, which will incorporate best practices and reflect current industrial development trends, support the industrial area structure plan update, engaging with local property owners, businesses, and interested parties. The update will review the current land use designations and explore appropriate actions like upzoning should the city wish to increase the amount of land identified for medium or heavy industry. The industrial area structure plans update will also review servicing plans for the area. Should the updated structure plans recommend increasing the land designation to allow for more intense industrial land uses, the servicing needs for the area may change. To improve the marketing, promotions, and advocacy, administration will incorporate the results of the strategy into the city's marketing materials. In 2024, the city's main investor-focused website, Invest Fort Sask, will be updated, as well as a new suite of marketing materials to promote the advantages of Fort Saskatchewan. Throughout this process, administration will engage with regional entities to align marketing efforts. The strategy also recommends the creation of the 3 new incentive programs to attract new industrial investment: the Hydrogen Incentive Program, an Agricultural Processing and Manufacturing Incentive, as well as the Manufacturing, Construction, and Industrial Support Services Incentive. Administration is proposing that the city follow the recommendations of EBP and the strategy for both the proposed Hydrogen Incentive Program and the proposed Agricultural Processing Incentive. Regarding the manufacturing, construction, and industrial support services incentive that's in development, those collaborative discussions are ongoing with the property owner. Administration met with that property owner in November, and the parties agreed that the incentive proposed should, 1, be designed to generate long-term economic growth for the city and should not incentivize temporary or low return uses. 2, that incentive should be designed to catalyze investment in those light and medium industrial areas. And 3, that the incentive should be designed to take advantage of potential spin-off investments from large-scale heavy industrial expansions in the area. And it should include a sunset clause to really promote that quick action. We all know that it's not truly an implementation plan without a timeline, and you can see here a general outline of our 2-year proposed outline. Please note that we plan to bring the incentive bylaws to council for approval by the end of Q2 of 2024 and expect those to require annual reporting to council moving forward as well. As you can see in 2023, we are focusing on engagement as we wrap up the end of the year. In 2024, we start the industrial area structure plan update, as well as the updates to marketing materials and the creation of incentives. And in 2025, we'll kind of begin the review of zoning and servicing and additional marketing work. As we look at these incentives on the screen, you can note that our existing Heartland incentive bylaws at the top in the blue ink. The proposed hydrogen and agricultural processing incentives are in black, kind of in the middle. And the manufacturing, construction, and industrial support services incentive is in the dark gray. You can see the collaborative piece, which is the one that we anticipate moving forward with, kind of in the middle, with the initial recommendation above and the landowner's recommendation below. The hydrogen tax incentive is designed to align with the Heartland Incentive Program, which is a 2.5% incentive with 250 construction jobs or 15 permanent jobs, except with the focus on hydrogen projects and with a lower investment requirement of only $10 million instead of the $50 million of the Heartland Incentive Program. This is to better meet some of the smaller scale clean energy projects we'd like to attract to our area. Those two agricultural processing incentives, the major and minor, were designed to address the current cost disadvantage for Fort Saskatchewan as described in the industrial competitiveness strategy. The major agricultural processing credit would mirror the Heartland Incentive Program, and the minor agricultural processing incentive would have those same job requirements, but would only require a $20 million investment and would provide anywhere between a 1.5 and a 2% incentive. As mentioned, the manufacturing, construction, and industrial support services incentives is still in development, and we will need to do some financial modeling and discuss options with both the interested parties and our consultant. We are currently proposing a $2.5 million minimum investment, but plan to continue working with the property owner and the consultant to determine the tax exemption percentage and to define specific eligibility criteria to meet those goals we specified. Once the details are defined, administration will work with the consultant and our legal advisors to draft the incentive bylaws. Administration will bring these proposed incentives to council for consideration before the end of the second quarter in 2024. So the city's legal advisors will need to support the creation of these incentive programs. Therefore, administration is requesting that council allocate a one-time budget ask of $30,000 from the Municipal Operating Projects Reserve for the purpose of creating these thoroughly vetted incentive programs. And there we go. And so we are, I guess, open to questions.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. I'll open it up for questions. I can start if you like. So based on the previous slide that you had that had the 80%, go back one more. Yeah, that one. So that would be similar to the Heartland one, where it would be for a maximum of the 10 years, 5-year construction. So once it's constructed, and then on the 10th year, then they would be at 100%?
Yes, through your worship, yes.
Okay.
It would be designed to mirror the Heartland Incentive Program, yes.
Okay, so then basically, if we were to get a lot of them, we flatline for at least 5 years, and then after 5 years, then we have to look at this as a futuristic. Then all of a sudden we would get a bunch of taxes in year 5.
To your worship, yes, with these programs, we would still be receiving some tax increase, but yes, you would receive a much larger tax increase once that 10-year period is through.
Okay.
Or until that maximum eligible amount is reached. So it's 10 years or that amount.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. You may have to explain that a little more after, but Councillor Kelly?
Thank you, and Aaron, thank you for the report. Just to follow up on the last set of questions, the taxes that apply to this proposed industrial development would be M&E tax, is that correct?
That would be some of the taxes, yes.
Some of the tax? I've never understood. M&E tax is based on a dollar value of assessed value, and a mill rate is applied to that. Does that assessed value depreciate over time? Like, is it a declining balance that the mill rate applies to?
Janelle? Mr.
Through your
Fleming?
worship,
Oh.
yes, I believe it is.
So over 10 years, what would be the standard depreciation factor that would apply? So let's keep it simple. $100 is invested. We can pretend it's $100 million, but it's $100 is invested in year one, or construction finishes in year one. By year 9, is that assessed value then down to 50%, 80%, or 10%? Do we know?
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, we do have some models, but I don't have that in front of me to confirm those numbers.
Mr. Fleming?
I'm just going to say M&E taxation is quite complex, and it's been a few years since I've gone through. They actually have depreciation schedules within the regulations for the different types of equipment. I think some of them go where there's certain equipment that'll take about 20 years to amortize down, and there's different schedules for different types, so I'd have to look it up. I think possibly I know where you're going with this, and like what we typically see is these types of things get built, and yes, there's an amortization process that starts to take place where it gets amortized down, but what you typically find with these companies through the processes of doing turnarounds, expansions and whatnot, the taxation that comes from these places tends to be fairly stable, even though they do have an amortization schedule associated with the different pieces of equipment. So I'm not terribly concerned about the amortization in this, but I would have to look up the different schedules, and we could send them to council after the fact to get a definitive answer.
And if I may, just to flesh that out a little more, let's look at this slide that's in front of us. Let's use the 2.5% tax incentive for hydrogen because it's at the top of the list there. Again, back to $100. The maximum incentive would be 2.5% of the $100 investment. And our standard mill rate is approximately 1%, so we could use that up pretty quickly. It would normally last 10 years, would it? And maybe I'm missing something. That's really why I'm asking.
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, the way these are structured is that it's you basically max out at either your the 2.5% of your eligible capital costs or the 10 years. So it's that way you have a boundary on both sides.
And that's what I thought. Thank you. So that's my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard?
Thanks for the presentation. So the Heartland incentive, because we're matching it, so companies can get both? They can do the Heartland incentive and our incentive?
Through your worship to Councillor Blizzard, the Heartland Incentive Program is a program from the city of Fort Saskatchewan.
Oh, okay. So it's already ours, but they can do both programs, or is this in addition to it, or we're just realigning? I guess I missed something.
Oh, through your worship to Councillor Blizzard, so these programs would be separate from the Heartland Incentive Program, and I don't anticipate I would work to ensure that they wouldn't be eligible for both. I think it would be similar to our downtown programs, which one's a grant, one's an incentive, but you can't be eligible for both.
Okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion. Councillor Harris?
I'd be prepared to move that Council approve the Industrial Competitiveness Strategy and Tool Set Implementation Plan as presented during the December 12, 2023 regular Council meeting.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I think we're moving in the right direction in terms of having something that's relatively objective in terms of trying to attract new investment to our community. I think the program processes should be well understood, and that hopefully will incent new industrial development in our community.
Thank you. It's open for discussion and debate. Councillor Kelly?
Thank you. I echo Councillor Harris's comments. I do think that for the city of Fort Saskatchewan and obviously our region, that industrial and heavy industrial is our livelihood, our mainstay. And I do think that council should regularly, periodically and regularly review any incentive program to keep competitive. Aaron, I support all of this. The conclusions at the end of the report, I liked every one of them. So yeah, I'll be voting in favor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll also be supporting this. I think we need to do something to try and get those lands that we're talking about moving. And I know we had the discussion and it was said, well, you know, like there's Atchison and Nisku, and why aren't they coming here? Well, it's primarily because of our location, but our location is also a benefit to these companies if we can just get them here and they understand how close they are to the people that they would be serving. And so I support this. I do understand some people may have concerns it flatlines us a little bit, but once the money starts rolling in, our community is really going to be set for the future. So it's a good thing. All right. Anything on close, Councillor Harris? Nothing. Motion is closed. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. Would you like to continue? Just push your button. Go ahead.
I would move that council allocate $30,000 from the Municipal Operating Projects Reserve for the purposes of creating incentive programs as outlined in the December 12th, 2023 regular council meeting Industrial Competitiveness Strategy and Toolset Implementation Plan Report.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I think we've said it all. It's a step along the path.
Okay, thank you. It's open for discussion and debate. Not seeing anything on close?
Nothing.
All right, I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. All right, thank you very much. Next item that we had was public member appointments, and that was part of consent. And I'd just like to congratulate, I think it's the policing committee got another youth member. So just say, looking forward to seeing, I met him on Saturday, and he's very excited about being on there. So good luck. Next item that we have is bylaw C11-23, establishing 2024 user fees, rates, and charges for services.
Again, good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Jeremy Eamon, Chief Financial Officer. This time I'm here to present a request for decision that Council give 3 readings to bylaw C11-23, which establishes the 2024 user fees and charges for services provided by the City of Fort Saskatchewan. The City establishes and collects user fees and charges in accordance with the User Fees and Charges Policy, FIN 009-C, and related procedures. The policy's guiding principles and key factors provide a consistent and transparent approach for reviewing and establishing user fees and charges for goods and services offered by the City. Information on the City's user fees and charges, established in accordance with the policy, was presented to Council for deliberation during the 2024 budget meetings. Bylaw C11-23 reflects the user fees and charges established through policy and the 2024 budget process, inclusive of adjustments based on decisions made by Council. In order to collect revenue from user fees and charges recognized within the 2024 budget, it is necessary for Council to approve this bylaw. Following third reading of the bylaw and user fee schedule will be posted to the city's website. Administration's recommendation is that Council give 3 readings to bylaw C11-23, which establishes the 2024 user fees and charges for services provided by the City of Fort Saskatchewan. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Kelly?
Thank you, Jeremy. I know that the city is a complex animal and that there's a lot of moving parts. But I really wonder when I look at the schedule of fees if we need that many specific fees to do our job properly. I'm not proposing a motion here. I'm getting this on the table. Maybe you guys can give it some thought when you have a moment to streamlining the process a little bit. If nothing else, it makes setting up our computer system and adjusting it annually for computer fees down to about 1/10 of the time maybe. And in many cases, the rate differences are minute. They're so small that I don't think they act as the incentive that, or the benefit that I suspect is often thought when they're assigned in the first place. Maybe we could call it our own version of red tape reduction. And that was less a question, Mayor Katcher, than a statement. I do have a question, though. I don't know who it should be directed to, but during the budget, when we looked at rec and culture, and I know I had some questions around the logic and methodology for setting some of the fees. There was no formal motion given by council, that's for sure. But I got the impression that there was going to be some sort of feedback back to council. Is my impression correct? And if so, approximately when? Have you given that any thought?
Mr. Dance?
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, yeah, the intent was that Recreation would do work on their fees and charges based on the new policy in early 2024 for the 25. There was a significant amount of input as well that came with their fees that I think you're referring to that would also roll up. We captured that feedback and it would roll up into their review as well. So you would see the changes within the 2025 fees and charges within Recreation and Culture.
But no independent discussion in advance of that, John, and what the methodology or the conclusions or rationale might be when those fees are ultimately set?
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, if there's a desire for council to see it in advance of it coming forward prior to, I guess, what would be in the budget process, if there's a committee of the whole sometime in mid-year that would help. They are very complex and they're obviously the largest set of fees that we have is within Recreation and Culture. So,
thank you. I'm going to give that some thought. Thank you, Mayor Katcher.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any additional questions. Councillor Nguyen?
I'll make the motion that, that council get first reading to bylaw C11-23, which establishes the 2024 user fees and charges for services provided by the City of Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Not much other than to say I appreciated how they were laid out in the budget this year. I think we had a good discussion with some of the user fees and yeah, once again appreciated how they were placed adjacent to the departmental requests and presentations as well.
Okay, thank you. The motion is open for discussion and debate. Not seeing any. Anything on close?
Nothing on close.
All right, I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote for first reading. That is carried unanimously. Would you like to continue?
I'll move that council give second reading to bylaw C11-23, which establishes 2024 user fees and charges for services provided by the City of Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you. Anything further to speak in favor?
Nothing more.
It's open for discussion and debate. Not seeing any. I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. You may present it for unanimous consent.
I'll move that council provide unanimous consent to proceed with third and final reading to bylaw C1123, which establishes the 2024 user fees and charges for services provided by the City of Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you. I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. You can continue.
Lastly, I'll move that council give third reading to bylaw C1123, which establishes the 2024 user fees and charges for services provided by City of Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you. Do you have anything further to speak to it?
Nothing.
All right. Thank you very much. It's open for discussion and debate. Not seeing any. I will close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Eamon. Are there any notice of motions? Not seeing any. Are there any points of interest? Not hearing any. Are there any councillor inquiries of administration? Not seeing any. Then we will take a motion to go into confidential closed session. Councillor Blizzard, you have to push your button. Go ahead.
I make a motion that we go into closed session for those items that are we are allowed to under FOIP.
Thank you. Call the question. Please cast your vote. That's carried unanimously. So we will go in camera, and you are going to have staff stick around for a little bit. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Okay, we have returned from in camera and we do have business arising from in camera. Councillor Blissard,
I'd like to make a motion.
go ahead.
I'll make a motion that the City of Fort Saskatchewan provide written notice to Edmonton Global of the city's intention to withdraw as a shareholder as per Article 42 of the Articles of Association of Edmonton Metropolitan Region Economic Development Company to be effective as of December 12th, 2023.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
I guess it's just that we feel this is a good way to go.
All right, thank you. It's open for discussion and debate. Not seeing any thing on close?
No.
All right, thank you. The motion is now closed. Oh, just a second. Yes. All right, I'll close the motion. Yes, you have to be back in the open session on your scribe. Oops, I have to actually get in there again. Sorry. Okay, there it is. All right, so the motion is now closed. Not yet. Getting there. Just watching to make sure everybody's got their computers back on. I voted. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So with that, I will take a motion to return to in camera. Councillor Macon. Just go
I'll
ahead.
make the motion to return to closed sessions for items covered under FOIP.
All right, thank you very much. Close the motion. Please cast your vote.
If we can just do with hands.
Okay.
Thanks. We've already cast the motion.
Okay. Right, we will return to closed and thank you.